Previously on A Leg of Glazed Ham is committing to the bit and is talking about One Tree Hill. Anyways, in the airport, we see Lucas make a phone call, and of course, Brooke, Peyton, and Lindsay all get a phone call at the same time. Only one of them is getting a call from Lubisky, which means only one of them is going to hear that he's at an airport with 2 tickets to Vegas, and he's asking if she'd like to get married tonight. And we hard cut before we see who he called. It's a cliffhanger, unless you have any critical thinking skills, in which case it's the moment they can finally have it. Dung, dung. I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me, and I have peace of mind. I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me, and I have peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do or who I'm supposed to be. I don't wanna be anything other than me. Season 6. And now we can finally have it. Episode 107 out of 187. After all the bullshit he's been through, Lucas hits his moment of clarity, and after a dream sequence of what married life could be like between the 3 women, he snaps back to reality, and there she is! Take a crack at who it'll be. Is it Brooke Davis and he's rekindling high school? Is it Lindsay and he's gonna be a lonely writer? Or is it the girl who's standing next to him when all his dreams come true? He realizes that she was the only one who's been in his heart the whole time. She's been the answer this whole series. Here she comes, his girl, the best one, the only, Peyton Sawyer! They embrace and they kiss, and it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It turns out that Brooke was getting a call from her mom, and she's having a shit night now. Her mom is threatening to take her job or something, but I don't give a shit because her plotline isn't Peyton and Lucas's love story. Speaking of, they're on a plane to Vegas, and she asks if it's all a dream and says that if it is, she never wants to wake up. Speaking of waking up, Dan wakes up in the hospital, or so he thinks he has anyway, because who's that nurse? Oh, for God's sake, really? We got a car accident and another kidnapping? One Tree Hill, you shouldn't have, because Nanny Carey is back for revenge. That's right, she's miseried Dan. Anyways, in Vegas, we see Lubisky bridal carries Peyton up to their hotel room, and they're having the time of their lives. There's a mirrored ceiling, and among other things, Peyton says, "And I think your ass is gonna look really great in that mirror. Let's find out." And then they fucked. Oh, fuck, that's funny. Anyway, Brooke gets shoplifted by some gross little nematode homeless girl named Sam. She physically assaults Brooke for trying to stop her, so things in Tree Hill kinda suck, but who gives a shit because our 2 real main characters are having a good time. Brooke and Jaylee Hames are together when they simultaneously get a text from either Peyton, Brooke, or Lucas, Jaylee, and they piece together that they're back together again. Dan's going through hell, and we hear Carrie's evil villain monologue, which is a testament to why you should always finish the job. If you're gonna do something, you should always follow through. This is the main lesson of One Tree Hill. Dan is gonna get tortured for trying to keep his son's family safe and sound. However, he is nothing if not a man of beating impossible odds and murder attempts. So, he's gonna get out just fine. Back in Vegas, they're gonna get Vegas married, but they back out because it's so trashy and Peyton has a plan. Anyways, Dan plays his part in the Phantom Pain opening because he's fleeing the hospital. This man who sold the world reaches the door and realizes he's in a house in the middle of the woods and that he's so screwed. Anyhows, Lubisky and Peyton drive home to Tree Hill, North Carolina, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. God damn, that's a long drive. Actually though, I lied because they drove down to the same hotel in LA where he originally proposed. Peyton talks about her recurring dream, about saying yes, we repeat the same dialogue from before, and we know what they've done. Congratulations, now you can finally have it. Also, while Brooke is in the shop doing some work, someone breaks in and beats her violently. Something says Sam might have had to do something with this. Episode 108 out of 187. We opened with Peyton and Lubisky talking about childhood dreams the next morning and having a great time. Jamie sees Uncle Skills and Granny Deb kissing in the kitchen, and now he's gonna question this for the rest of time. Anyways, Brooke calls Peyton about where she's been, Peyton tells, and we see a very battered and bruised Brooke hang up and get some help. Peyton and Lubisky are heading home, and they're gonna move in together. But first, Peyton needs one more night with Brooke to make sure she's doing okay, since she sounded sad on the phone. In Tree Hill, we see Deb helping Brooke out with what happened, and that's sweet. Anyways, this was all a plot device for Brooke to learn how to use a gun. Back with Dan, he's seeing just how monumentally stupid Nanny Carey's plan is. Peyton's home! And she finds out about Brooke's bruises and everything, but Brooke's not interested in talking about what happened to her because she's very happy for Lubisky and Peyton. And mostly because she doesn't want Peyton to worry. Lubisky goes and visits Jaylee, and he breaks the news to her that he and Peyton are engaged. She's very happy for them. Back in the Hell Hospital, Dan can finally speak again, and he says, "Your plan sucks," and he keeps telling Nanny Carey that her plan sucks and he's just getting into her head. He's doing it just fine. Anyways, Lubisky helps Peyton move out. Back to Dan, he explains that he's got less than 6 months to live and then she's gonna be the prime suspect, so, your plan sucks, right? Anyways, Quentin has been getting a little too much character growth recently, so when he goes to get gas put in his car, he gets gunned down by a robber. He's dead, as is revealed to Lubisky in a phone call. Episode 109 out of 187. We get a little more about the phone call, and oh hey, narration from Sam, the shoplifter who got Brooke assaulted and robbed. Crazy. Well, I guess we've got to have one shit teen in the show at any given moment. Turns out that nobody told Nathan until the morning, and Jaylee has to break the news to him about Quentin being dead. And now we've got to figure out how to explain death to the 5-year-old Jamie Lucas Scott. Surely nothing can go wrong here. It doesn't actually go that wrong. He'll just be a little sad and confused over it because Quentin was a good friend for him. We get a lot of shots of people trying to cope with this senseless tragedy, and we get some interesting views on grief and all that perspective-y shit, but WDNC. Anyways, back to the Dan plot. Things are getting tense because Nanny Carey's gonna use the fact that he's dying to make sure she can get away with murdering Jaylee Hames and stealing her kid, since it'll look like the convicted murderer killed her and then died later on, or whatever her master plan is to steal Jamie for herself. We're back to that grief shit, and then we're back to Dan, who's trying his damnedest to convince Carey that she can have her own kid instead of stealing Jamie, and then she gets really pissy. Anyhows, Jamie Lucas Scott and Quentin's little brother Brandon Andre Fields become friends. We see Quentin's mom thank Lucas and Skills and Nathan and Jaylee Hames, and damn, it's sad. We see the little dudes bonding, and sure, it's nice to see. They'll be friends for as long as the series remembers that Brandon exists. Anyway, Brooke is going to therapy, and wouldn't you know it, it's the same therapist that Nathan and Jaylee saw back in whatever season that was. Last one? I don't remember, it's been too long. Anyhow, Dan begins prison escape attempt number 2. This time he gets out of the house and a lot further before he collapses in front of a grave for Carey's real son. So she's psychotic because her kid died, I guess? I don't know, man. More grief shit ensues and how to deal with it occurs. And we get a lot of Jaylee Hames Scott trying to guide her students, but WDNC. It's funeral time and everyone is helping each other, and it's a nice sequence, but it's only here to pad out the series. Nathan finds out about Deb and Skills, the basketball boys come to pay their respects in full uniform, and everyone's crying, etc., etc. We end and we get flashbanged by the credits as it's black text on a white background instead of the other way around like normal. Just thought I would mention that.
Episode 110 out of 187.
Time passes, we get some Force Ghost Quentin visions, unique to each person who knew him, etc., etc. Nathan confronts his mother about her relationship with Skills, and he kicks her out of his house. Lamey Jukas Scott wants to go visit Grandpa Danny, but who cares? Peyton gets visited by actual musician Mick Wolf, who, as we figure out, is Peyton's father! Jesus the Christ, this show. Anyways, Carrie runs into Deb and they talk, and it's disturbing as all hell. Jaylee Hames Scott goes to visit Dan, but his house is completely empty, and his car isn't here. No one answers the door except it's completely unlocked. Jaylee explores the house. Deb breaks up with Skills because she wants to be in her son and grandson's life or something. Peyton and Mick Wolf bond because we know that he's very clearly her dad, but we also know how well these things kinda go. Anyways, as Nathan and Jaylee Hames talk, they notice the disappearance of Danny Boy. We also get properly introduced to Sam, who's a bitch, and WDNC. Jamie tries to talk some sense into Nathan about why he should just let go of Deb and Skills kissing and doing the sex and all that jazz, because when Nathan complains about Skills kissing his mom, Jamie says, "Yeah, but I let you kiss my mom," and this point is completely mute because Nathan is his dad. He's a bit mad about it. Anyway, Sam continues to be a bitchy teen, and God, I want her gone from this show now. Anyways, back to basketball. We've got a game tonight, and symbolically, the boys choose to play the game Short a Man because the fifth man is the memory of Quentin. They get their shit rocked, but they prove a point about how basketball is more than a game or something. We get a certified Lubisky speech in memoriam of Quentin as they retire his jersey number up on the wall with Nathan and Coach's jerseys. During the game, Carrie comes and steals shit from the house. Anyways, Brooke visits her mom, sits down, sets a gun on the table, and is ready to have a little chat. Brooke finds out her mom actually had nothing to do with the assault, and more importantly than that, we learn that Victoria is an absolute mega bitch who wishes Brooke was never born at all. Lubisky gives the team a banger speech after their loss, and we're motivated to scratch their way to a four-man victory team for the rest of the season in honor of Quentin. Gentlemen, it's been an honor to coach these boys. And then everyone clapped. No, really, everyone in the gym applauds the boys for their commitment to keeping Quentin's memory alive. In an unrelated note, it turns out that Sam is homeless and a shitball and living in the school's auto shop. God damn. Anyways, Jaylee gets the call from the heart doctor that Dan never called back when they said they had a heart for him, and we know why. Anyways, Nathan gives Deb and Skills his permission to date, and they get back together. Skills and Nathan forgive each other, etc., etc. WDNC. We do not care. Episode 111 out of 187. Carrie is digging a shallow grave, but who cares? We cut to Lubisky and Peyton in bed together, and just seeing how happy she is to be there really warms the cold, dead remains of my heart. There's more montagey little moments like that, but I'm not too interested. What I am interested in is the domestic life of Peyton and Lubisky. They've got a date for the wedding set, and Peyton's asking Brooke to make her dress. They talk because they're best friends and all that. Nathan gets a call from a developmental league, and he's back on track to be basketball. Jaylee Hames Scott gets a call from a hospice nurse who says Dan is gonna die soon and they should come visit him soon. Surprise, surprise, it's Nanny Carrie trying to lure Jaylee Hames and Jamie to the middle of nowhere for a little murdering and child kidnapping. Nathan's out of town, so they're in a bit of danger. However, Deb says that this doesn't sound like something Dan would do, which puts her into a suspicious state and gives her the obvious chance to be the hero. We see more of Peyton and Mick Wolf bonding, and it's an oopsie, he's her dad, but he doesn't want to admit it. God, if I had $1 for every one of our main characters that had a actual musician as a dad, I'd have $2, which isn't a lot, but one of them was Huey Lewis, so that's gotta count for something, right? Lucas is in New York for some book business, and he's got a book tour to go on, but the day he's supposed to be in Chicago is the day of his wedding. He brings up that he can't do that day, and his former editor, Lindsay, takes him into her office to ask what the hell could be so important that he'd be willing to miss out on a huge market. He never told her that he's marrying Peyton, and she never gave him the chance to until now. Lindsay's devastated, but who cares? She never stood a chance. And you know what? 95.1 WDNC. We do not care. Editor's note. This was just a joke I made because We Do Not Care shortened to WDNC sounds like a radio station ID, and it turns out that it actually is. 99.9 WDNC is a real radio station in, you guessed it, North Carolina. I didn't know this when I started making this joke, and this is the craziest coincidence ever. And even funnier, they're the official radio broadcasters for the Duke Blue Devils, which means basketball, baby! End of editor's note. Okay, let's continue the video now. Bye. Peyton's alone for dinner because she's waiting for her dad, Mick Wolf, to show up, while Lucas has to patch shit up with Lindsay so he still gets his shit published before he goes home. He leaves her and heads home to his beautiful house with his beautiful wife. Carrie is preparing to kill Dan and is prepping for the fact that Jaylee Hames and Boy are here. Jamie is locked in the car, so Jaylee can go check out the house, and she sees Dan, and uh-oh, this kinda sucks. She just got knocked out. Back at home, Deb, while searching for a very special bottle of champagne buried in the cabinets, finds a Deus Ex photo of Carrie and pieces together that Jaylee is in danger, so she's off to be her hero. Jamie is spotted by Carrie, and he's gonna book it into the cornfields? God, where is this house? Indiana? Just kidding. The only shows set in Indiana are Stranger Things and Parks and Rec. Jamie hides within the corn, and Carrie has lost sight of him. Jaylee Hames gets woken up and Dan is released from his captivity. Jaylee finds her boy in the corn and she's gonna keep him safe. Deb is here, she smashes a bottle over Carrie's head and they're saved. And on top of that, we get the 16th song on the Ryan Adams song counter with If I Am a Stranger. Let's go! Turns out that Carrie isn't dead though. She picks up an axe and through the power of Dan's gun, I forgot to mention, everyone's safe because Dan finally finishes the job and shoots her. Then, as she drops, he drops the immortal line, God, I hate the woods. Any yawas? Let's cut to the chase. Sam and Brooke bond, and I wonder if Brooke will try to adopt her later. I wonder. Anyways, WDNC. After all is said and done, Carrie starts laughing and is somehow still alive, so Dan just fucking shoots her like 5 more times because he's based like that. My man! Episode 112 out of 187. It's the next morning and Lucas has to go head off on a book tour towards Omaha, Nebraska, where he'll get to hang out with Mouth, which is part of a subplot I've been neglecting because I don't give a shit. Jaylee Hames finds out that Sam lives in a car in the school's auto shop, and screw this subplot, I don't care. Peyton goes to work and finds Mick drunk and sleeping on her office's pool table. She sees his 1-year sober chip, and when he rises, she asks him what the hell happened, and he admits to being her actual father. He's a major screw-up and would have been a terrible dad. Peyton's over it now and storms off. Lucas arrives in Omaha, and the company/Lindsay is sabotaging him. Like, a lot. They sent a different guy with Lucas to go on tour, and he doesn't understand the book at all, so shit has hit the fan. No one shows up to the signing, except for Mouth, and that's sad. Anyways, Brooke is gonna take care of Sam now, even if she initially tries to reject the offer. Nathan gets an offer to do something called slam ball, which is like basketball mixed with football on trampolines. What the hell is this show? Back to Brooke. Peyton comes to see her and sees her Batman-ass mirror, and she tells Peyton about the attack incident. We don't get to see that conversation since we see Nathan agreeing to come on and slam ball. Then we cut back to Peyton and Brooke talking, and oh hey, Lucas's tour is over because the book is gonna flop hard. Anyways, Brooke and Peyton are bonding and having a great time at home, so that's nice. Lucas and Mouth are out on the town hanging out that night, and they both talk about how they want to go home, even if Mouth is super successful here in the city of Omaha. Oh yeah, it turns out that one of the dudes on Nathan's slam ball team is Owen, who was the bartender guy that Brooke briefly had a fling with. Anyways, Lucas is coming home to his future wife. Brooke offers Sam a room in her house, and I don't particularly care. Or rather, WDNC. Lucas is about to get on a flight in an hour, but Mouth comes to him and asks if he'd like to drive home, so he can also go home, and Lucas agrees. Time for another Tree Hill road trip, let's go! Them life his strange-ass shots return and include Peyton calling her dad, saying she loves him. We see the boys driving home, and we get one last joke, and it's fun. Episode 113 out of 187. We get an episode on the domestic life of Peyton and Lucas. It's a fun episode for them. We see Brooke struggling with raising a teen, and we see Mouth and Millie reunite. It's funny, but I'm going to ignore as much as I can except for the Lucas and Peyton stuff. Peyton's baking, and Lucas asks her about the magazine she's reading. It's on the moving in together step in your relationship and how you'll learn a lot about the other person and all that shits. And we see some of the cracks in their relationship. They talk, and they're gonna lock themselves in this house until they work through their shit out and get everything settled. Chaos will ensue. They begin to unpack Peyton's records, and this is where we learned that Lucas should have stopped taking his meds in high school and died because he doesn't like The Cure. Who the fuck doesn't like The Cure? They start fighting over it because this is seriously an inexcusable offense. The fight continues when Peyton wants to move them into the master bedroom, and she brings up Funky Town shenanigans when Lucas loses his shit because it's still his mom's room in the back of his mind, but he's willing to compromise.
Want compromise? How's this? I jacked off in a tissue. 20 years in the can. I jacked off in a tissue. I wanted my God. I compromised. I jacked off in a tissue. I wanted a fuck tissue, but I compromised. I jacked off in a tissue. 20 years, I jacked off in a tissue in the can, but I compromised. I jacked off in a tissue.
For Peyton, and they get right to it. Anyways, before we get back to them, we get the 17th song on the Ryan Adams song counter with, are you shitting me? Another cover of When the Stars Go Blue? God damn it! I'll never be able to listen to that song again. We cut back to Lucas and Peyton, and he's a sad, angry boy for an interesting reason. It turns out that, being in his mom's bed meant he, couldn't exactly, maintain proper form, as it were. And Peyton's laughing at his misfortune and baby rage. The next day, Peyton wakes up and Lucas has split the house down the middle with tape, and they're having a war over a magazine article, and it'll be really fun. Lubisky was playing a little Halo, and oh no, Peyton has the remote to the TV, so she just shuts it off in the middle of his game. He responds by cutting the power to the master bedroom. She fires back by sending a love message to Fergie. He was one of the basketball guys at the River Court way back when, just to clarify, from Lucas's phone, since it was somehow on her side of the house. Peyton's teasing him, dangling the potential for sex right in front of him, and he considers caving, but he holds his ground because no matter how seductive, alluring Peyton is, we see both of them unable to sleep, laying on their separate sides of the house. They sure aren't happy, but the war is pretty funny as a spectator. As Peyton lays awake, Lucas has an idea, and using a flashlight, he lures Peyton out into the living room, and he went through her art again. They admit that they like the other person's side better, and the war is over. They immediately switch sides to get food or go to the bathroom. I don't remember who does which. That's my couple. They have a breakfast, and we see that Fergie came over from the text, and Peyton can't stop laughing at him. God, I love them. One of the top 10 fictional couples ever. But not really. But maybe. Not my problem. Episode 114 out of 187. It's time for Nathan's first slam ball game, and all that matters is that Lubisky just got an offer to turn his first book into a movie! My man! Nate's a little battered and bruised from the game, and yeah, whatever. Anyway, back to the movie. We meet the man who wants to make the movie, and his name is Julian Baker, and he will be a controversial boy for reasons we do not fully understand. We see Peyton visit her big brother for the first time in years, and remember when Derek was in this show? Man, it's been ages. They make a very unsubtle joke about the age of actors being cast to play high schoolers, which has Nathan looking directly into the camera and making a funny face that doesn't have a hint of irony in this gag. Back to Peyton, Derek mentions a USO show, and wouldn't you know it, it gives Peyton inspiration to organize a USO show for her brother and all that jazz. Could be pretty fun, don't you think? We keep getting the same joke about the actors, and Brooke even makes a joke about getting a CW actress, which is funny because that's the network this shit originally aired on. This has all of the subtlety of a Neil Breen film. Anyways, Lubisky is gathering all the opinions he can on whether or not this movie should get made. Everyone has been on board so far. Anyway, there's some subplot about Sam being a shitty teen and throwing a party in Brooke's empty store, which causes someone to ruin Peyton's wedding dress, and Brooke is mad at Sam and blah blah WD&C. Jaylee Hames visits Lucas and asks him about the movie, and wah-hey! Wouldn't you know it, he's gonna meet with Julian? He hears about the money he can get from writing a script, and he's a little hesitant because Julian seems a little too familiar with Peyton and her life, like things not even mentioned in the book. Luke hard negotiates himself into a producer credit, and he signs on. Turns out that Julian Boolean here was Peyton's rebound from Lubisky, which didn't matter in the long run and won't matter now, but the show really wants you to think there's a chance that they can't pull it off. We all know that Peyton's loyal to the man that's next to her when all her dreams came true, and nothing will come between them. Also, Julian's just a tad creepy, like every character that gets introduced into this show, because conflict sells. Episode 115 out of 187. After Sam's party incident, she gets grounded and it's kind of funny, but say it with me now, WD&C. We see Jaylee Hames Scott making a lot of food for breakfast, and the domestic life of the Scott family is very cute. We cut to Lubisky and Peyton, and here is where we learn what occurred between her and Julian in LA, and again, it's a pointless source of conflict that adds nothing and goes nowhere. Anyways, Lubisky starts turning his novel into a script, and we get the least cool montage ever in the form of a screenwriting montage! Everyone will go on to say that he's got to revamp the Keith death scene, and he's concerned about showing it for the same reasons any reasonable person should be, because it was a real in the show's canon, murder. Everyone pressures him into getting him into the script. Julian is an ass about it. We get more flashbacks of the pointless Peyton's old relationship subplot, and 95.1 WD&C. We do not care. We get a subplot of Jamie price gouging snacks because Sam teaches him basic economics. We see Lubisky take a shovel to Dan's gravestone, and Peyton tells Julian Boolean to fuck off because he's an asshole. Lubisco talks to Dan about what happened in that hallway, and Dan tells him what happened exactly and tells him that Keith was a hero, which is true. Lucas finally knows how to write the scene, he does it well, and it's all good. After winning a slam ball game, Nathan gets shoved through yet another sheet of glass by some jackass who's hated him since high school or something. Nathan's fine because football padding. Turns out that Peyton called Julian's bullshit about the movie really being a plot to win her back, and we know she won't waver from Lucas. He's kind of realizing this, and he, being Julian, is kind of realizing this and is a sad little shitlord because he knows his ass is not that guy. Peyton never told Lubisky about the fact she dated Julian during their hiatus, and he finds this out through a photo in Julian's hotel room. Lucas comes home and asks what happened between her and Julian, and he's slightly annoyed, I guess? It's hard to gauge his reaction when it's only based on face acting, and all he can do is squint and look mildly incredulous. Episode 116 out of 187. Preparations for the USO show begin, and to answer the question about Lucas's reaction, he does not care, at all. Peyton is shocked by his maturity, which would mean something if we didn't cut to him visiting Julian and decking him in the face like a champ. There was some other shit between this, but it's not worth mentioning. Lucas then goes and talks to his brother about knocking a guy out, and he gets no answers that help him out. There's a lot of pointless shit before the show, and before the USO show, and I don't care. Although, what's worth mentioning, and what's funny, is we do get something about the J's, H or B, which raises the question of, is the word handjob not FCC compliant? Anyhows, during real show prep, we see Sam and Peyton kind of bond. Sam asks what it's like meeting your birth parents, etc., whatever. Jaylee Hames Scott is nervous about performing again on stage for the first time in a long time. Mia is here again, and it's showtime. Jaylee goes out and rocks the show because she's the star tonight. We've been getting some Force Ghost Quentin visions for Nathan, and it's an episode-long subplot about him feeling guilty about quitting Slam Ball or something. Brooke and Julian talk, and she's essentially telling him that you can't get between Peyton and Lucas, and if he tries, she'll rip his head off. My girl! Peyton and Brooke announce a band together, and then Lucas and Julian finally talk. There's some tension because since Julian owns the options to the book for like 6 months or whatever, Lucas can't really do anything about it. But after a Peyton speech, we know Lunkus will make that movie since it's his book. Jaylee Hames comes home and Nathan set up a bunch of candles and shit since he couldn't go to the show, and she performs a few songs for him. Back at Lubisky's house, we see Peyton convince him to do the movie. They get it on. Nathan and Jaylee Hames go upstairs after she performs a couple of songs, and they're gonna get it on. There's a lot of getting it on in this episode at the end. Episode 117 out of 187. We open with Lucas watching Casablanca and reading through his script. He calls Peyton and he falls asleep while waiting up for her to get home from the office. This whole episode is a dream sequence. It's set in a 40s rendition of One Tree Hill, and everything is super heightened, and it really makes you wish that this is what 40s movies actually were like, instead of the worst shit you've ever seen like Citizen Kane. Lucas owns a nightclub, Jaylee Hames is a nightclub singer, Nathan was a bartender who gets sent off to fight in the war, Dad is a mob boss, and we get that fast-talking 40s action. It's great. We see Nathan and Jaylee Hames get married before he heads off to war, etc., etc. But of course, the centerpiece of the episode is the Lucas and Peyton 40s noir romantic tragedy plot, and it's a wacky fun time. It's a completely filler episode, but it's a very fun one to see the alternate universe bullshit they pull off for no reason. And it's an excuse for some mafia murder, accidental murder, tragedy shits, you know, all that 4 days LA noir type shit. I like the idea that this is just one of Lubisky's book ideas, but again, not plot relevant at all. Lucas wakes up to a phone call, and of course it's Peyton calling. We see her getting ready to leave, and she hits the floor in pain, clutching her side. Surely this won't have any consequences. Or will it? Dung, dung. I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do or who I'm supposed to be. I don't wanna be anything other than me. Season 6.5, City of Dreams. Episode 118 out of 187. Back in real Tree Hill, we get a Candyman sounding ass narration from this ghost of Quentin. It's not relevant at all. Anyways, Sam gets in trouble for having a boy in her room over, even if nothing happened, and it was because the guy needed to get away from his abusive brother. Lucas agrees to stay on the movie. He and Julian talk about Peyton, and speaking of, she's in the hospital getting that pain checked out. Maybe that pain will have consequences. Anyhows, things aren't going great at Red Bedroom Records because Mia can't write a new song. Nathan's career trying to get into the NBA Developmental League starts because the guy who's coaching this team actually knows him and all that. Lucas is off to LA to meet with some producer asshole. Brooke tells Sam about her getting physically assaulted, and Sam puts the pieces together that her actions have consequences, but more importantly, they bond and it's nice. Lucas arrives and meets the other guy, and he's doing cocaine off the script. And I didn't write this originally because I can't believe I didn't know who this other guy was, but this producer, you know who he is? That's right, he was Dawson in Dawson's Creek. It's James Vanderbeek, and I don't know why I didn't recognize him, because his cameo in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, unironically maybe the best part of that movie, but a different argument for a different day. Nathan proves he is a professional basketball on the court with some Fight Club narrator type shit, and it's something. Lucas's meeting isn't good, and gee dang, it's not great. We discover that Sam's friend's abusive brother is the one that assaulted Brooke, and she's conflicted. We see Peyton get a phone call from her doctor, and it's real bad news. Everything's going to shit now. Except for Nathan. He's got into the NBA development leagues or whatever the hell it is. We get them yee ass shots around town, and the only thing that matters are Peyton calls Lubisky and she tells him the news, and Sam is staying with her friend and his abusive brother. Episode 119 out of 187. We see the phone call in full now, and guess what? Peyton's preggeranty, and they're ecstatic. Lucas is gonna come home, but he's gotta go talk with the studio head since the director is threatening to walk or whatever the hell is going on here. Nathan has made it to the NBA Dev Leagues or whatever, surprise, surprise, and uh-oh, Sam's being held hostage by jackass older bro. Peyton and Mia patch things up, Mia's off to start writing more songs and shit. Brooke is on a mission to find Sam, and I wonder if this is the payoff to the Deb teaches Brooke how to shoot a gun subplot that I mentioned way earlier in the season. Lucas meets with the studio head, and it's Julian's dad. They talk about what the director's problem is, but Julian's dad kinda hates his son, so he makes that the problem. At the D Leagues, Nathan is getting chastised by some jackass, so I have to mention him now and never again. He's just a stepping stone on the way to Nathan's recovery. We get more studio executive bullshit, we get more Sam being held hostage shit, and wouldn't you know it, Brooks accidentally stumbles into the right house and we get an epic fight/escape sequence shit thing, and all that jazz. Brooke doesn't kill him because they've learned nothing about finishing the job here in Tree Hill. Oh yeah, Jaylee Hames figures out that Peyton is preggeranty. In LA, Lubisky manages to convince the studio dick that Julian can do the thing and all is well. Anyways, hey, you remember Chase? Yeah, Chase gets called back into the show and he's the new barman at Trick. Ain't that some shit? Mia's writing songs again, Chase talks to Mia for the first time, showcasing his incompetence. Also, the dude who held Sam hostage is the dude who murdered Quentin. Lubisky is home now, and he and his fiancée talk and enjoy all the things that are about to come once the kid is born. Episode 120 out of 187. We get some of the aftermath of the incident, exploring how Brooke is coping, and WD&C. Back at the L. Scott residence, we see Peyton in front of a mirror imagining how she'll look farther along in her pregnancy, and she's worrying about how she'll tell Brooke. It's a wacky thing. Nathan comes home for the weekend, and it's nice to see how much Jaylee Hames and Nathan love each other, etc., etc. Peyton visits Brooke, and she breaks the news that she is pregos, and Brooke is a little sad because she just finished Peyton's second wedding dress, and now she's got to make a third one. But she gets over it because her best friend is getting happily married and having a kid. Brooke immediately breaks out the baby Brooke prototypes for Peyton to keep. Other shit occurs, and if it ain't the Peyton or Lubisky plot, I don't care. Speaking of those two, they've got a babysit tonight, and we get all sorts of wacky shenanigans there, including a mirrored shot of the kids and Nathan and Chase singing the same song. It's pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. Also fun is when they send the kids to play hide and seek. Peyton sends Lucas out to get some ice cream because she's craving it, and if she ain't happy, nobody's happy. He comes back with ice cream and some walkie-talkies for the kids. The club double date went well. Eventually, Nathan and Jaylee Hames Scott head to pick up the boys. They show up, and the kids answer the door because Lubisky and Peyton fell asleep in each other's arms on the couch. And it's really sweet. Mia and Chase had a great first date, and they're great for each other, albeit incredibly dumb and inexperienced. Also, Julian and Brooke had a date. It was an episode of dates and one breakup. I forgot to mention there was a shitty subplot around Mouth and Millie breaking up, but I had to mention it at some point, you know? But alas, WD&C. At the L. Scott residence, Lucas gets woken up by a walkie-talkie conversation from Nathan, and it's a sweet reference to why he got them in the first place. Peyton and Lucas talk about their kid and how the night went, and how much they love each other, and all that really heartwarming shit. Episode 121 out of 187. Holy shit, it's basketball time! And of course, we're back to that jackass taunting Nathan, and guess what? He sucks at the game. His prideful ass couldn't make the game-winning play by passing to the guy who had an open shot at winning. In the locker room, he's being a jackass, and nobody gives a shit, especially me. I don't give a single shit about this asswipe. At the L. Scott residence, Peyton asks why Lucas is doing the dishes, and he's thinking about the movie. The search for a director isn't going well at all. Back at Brooke's house, though, she and Julian are making out, and they get spotted by Sam, who just came home at the worst possible time, and she cock-blocks Julian despite her best efforts to wingman him. We meet with the next director, and he's a British twat who wants to make this book into 8 Mile, but also make it super ridiculous and stupid, because, again, he's a British twat. Oh, hey, remember Dan? Me neither, but he's searching for a new heart. He gets given another pager and has a Nam flashback to Nanny Carey kidnapping the boy. We get more movie production shenanigans, and it's in trouble because they can't find one good director. There's some basketball drama where Nathan's not getting playing time because aforementioned jackass, etc., etc. More petty dramatics between Brooke and Julian Boolean and these things, but say it with me now, 95.1 WDNC. We do not care. Editor's note, 95.1 is read 95.1, not 95.1. This rule applies to all radio stations, actually, and I never knew this until I started working as a DJ at my college radio station. Anyways, as Mia performs a new song, we see that Lubisky drove out to the spot where they first met. He gives her the new wedding ring since he feels kinda weird about giving her Keith's ring since he already used it on Lindsay. They're very happy, they kiss, and we cut back to Nathan at the River Court shooting ball. Dan is here to give a certified early season-esque Dan speech, and it's really funny, but only because I'm waiting for the almighty evil heart surgery moment, which I won't explain, but just be excited for it. We get a gag of Lucas and Julian talking about directors and which one is the best of the worst, or who'll screw this up the least. Julian suggests the British director, not the guy who wanted to make 8 Mile 2, 8 More Miles or whatever, but the actually British director who, quote, made an incest movie with sock puppets, which raises so many questions because it sounds super funny, and where can I find this? This shit sounds like comedy gold. Peyton visits Jaylee Hams, shows her the new ring, and Jaylee tells her that he wanted to propose with Keith's ring, but given shit I've already said, he chickened out, even if Peyton wants the Keith ring. Anyways, director trouble comes to a close when Coke Man Adam comes to town. He convinces the lads that he should direct the movie. Also, again, side note, him being a director is really funny because I choose to believe that this is Dawson after Dawson's Creek, where he finally achieves being a director, but he just really likes cocaine and has become like a completely different guy. It's very funny to me. Anyway, Lucas says some shit, and Adam the cocaine man is going to use this to his advantage and get the job. Nathan finally gets to make a play in the game, and what do you know, they finally end their losing streak. At the end of the day, Peyton tells Lubisky that the ring he gave her isn't the right ring and she wants Keith's ring. He's glad and gets the right ring out, and they're doing just fine. Brooke and Julian get together and get to the Funky Town shenanigans. Episode 122 out of 187. Casting time! Also, Peyton struggles to build a crib that Karen and Andy sent from Italy, since the instructions are written in Italian. Peyton goes to visit her future husband, but the casting people assume she's here for the role, so instead of showing her ID and proving she's the real Peyton, she just goes along with it. She's mortified when she hears some of the people auditioning for her role. Peyton came by to see her man and also bring him lunch, not asked for, and it's really sweet. Sam somehow won the school's essay contest, and she's gonna get published in the school paper. How nice! Also, Jamie's subplot this episode involves Grandpa Dan helping this kid learn about dating and girls and all those things. During casting, we get a Coach mention! As Brooke and Julian take a tour of the cast, she meets the movie version of Brooke, and she's a bit disappointed. We get a Peyton auditioning montage, and we get Coke Man being a creep because we all know every big studio director like him that just pumps out shit movies is only into casting based on who he can sleep with. We get the complicated process of casting a movie, and Jesus wept. Anyhows, we see the girl who Jamie invited over, and it's his fucking teacher. My man! Anyhows, at Tree Hill High, the new principal is a capital B bitch. She doesn't want to run the best essay in the paper because she's a bitch. She also threatens to fire Jaylee Haim Scott if she allows this essay to get published in the paper. So, we love censoring the press. Back at Dan's, the date appears to be going smoothly. Not smooth, however, is Peyton's no-good, very overwhelming day. We get a cameo from Skills, the man with 100 jobs, as he inspects the house for baby-proofing. Shit is not gonna go well. Jaylee Haim Scott is gonna run this essay in the paper, her job be damned. Anyhows, Jackass got cut from the team, even though he's got a kid and another kid on the way, so he kinda needed the money, but who cares? We see Lucas have a mental breakdown by getting overwhelmed, and the shittiest cut-to-commercial transition ever. A guy literally says, "and scene." So, like the laziest way you could have possibly done that? Yeah. Anyways, blah blah, more melodramatic bullshit ensues, but WD&C. Peyton's overwhelmed by doing everything on her own, and she just wants her husband. Anyhows, we've gotten our cast, and they do their first table read. How exciting! More melodramatic bullshit ensues. How not exciting! Peyton goes to her doctor's appointment, and Lou Bisky shows up, despite her thinking he wouldn't be able to. He always listens to her, and that's how you know they'll make it. Or something. Episode 123 out of 187, Brooke is freaking the hell out over something Julian did in the bedroom. See, the obvious joke is that Julian decided it was time for a little butt stuff and Brooke freaked out, but it wasn't that, you dirty-minded freak. He said, "I love you," and she wasn't ready for that. See, nothing weird or freaky, you creepy little perv. We check back in on the Mouth and Millie breakup subplot for a moment, and yeah, that's what the show wanted to do, not what I wanted to do. We get a Jaylee Haim's jump scare in the middle of an empty house in Charleston, because it's Nathan and her's anniversary tonight. You know what that means. Sex! Not on TV. But where are those good old family values, on which we used to rely? Well, let's check in on Lou Bisky and Peyton, yeah? Well, she has another one of those pains that makes her hit the floor, and we get an intertitle saying, "The Surprise." Pretty ominous. They come back from the hospital, and the mood has shifted drastically. Lucas was going to show her the big surprise, which was him setting up his old room into a nursery, but the mood's been soured pretty harshly now. They talk about what we still haven't been told, but they need some time to process the fact that she's got a pretty serious medical condition that might be fatal for her. She wants to have the baby regardless, but Lucas would rather not lose his wife. This heart divide leads to one of four paths: loss of Peyton, loss of baby, loss of both, or loss of neither. It's a gamble that 3/4 of the time results in a direct and terrible loss for Lucas. They fight over this because he doesn't want to lose his wife, but Peyton's determined to have the kid. Ah, the domestic drama that leaves you feeling hollow and like a sack of shit. However, they'll stick through it all because there's not a chance that they don't let these two get the good ending. Anyways, the next intertitle says The Long Goodbye, and oopsie, it's about that mouth subplot, and say it with me, 95.1 WD&C, we do not care. Next intertitle, The 7-Year Itch. We check back in on Nathan and Jaylee, they tour this house, they talk about achieving their dreams, and they get to that anniversary night Funky Town shenanigans. Next intertitle, The Deleted Scene. It's Brooke and Julian, so moving on. Next intertitle, The Cold War. Great montage, but we cut back to Lucas and Peyton sitting on the floor cuddled up together, and they decide to keep the baby. Good for them. Episode 124 out of 187. We open with Jamie playing The Sims, which is so weird and lame because nobody gives a shit because it's finally time. They have a new heart for Dan, and it's time for evil heart surgery! There's a dumbass stoner dude who decided to take his dog to the hospital since it ate some of his weed. This will be important soon. We see Lubisky and Peyton leaving the hospital from another pregnancy checkup. This will be important. We get a shot of Skills coaching baby basketball, and it's pretty funny, but not important. Jaylee Haim Scott got suspended from being a teacher for running the essay in the paper, and the principal is willing to let this all go away if she runs an apology in the paper. Otherwise, she'll be fired. Back at the hospital, we're preparing for surgery. The heart is being transported into the operating room, and for some reason they go through the waiting area where the damn dog trips the carrier of the heart. The heart falls out of the very non-secure container, and the dog eats the heart and runs. Dan and Lucas watch this unfold in horror, and it's so funny. It's the greatest scene in television history. Anyways, Dan isn't the only thing that just died. Lucas's movie just died because of studio shenanigans. More shit about the Jaylee Haim Scott getting fired situation, but more than that, Nathan confirms what we already know, which is that the English teacher is always the best high school teacher. Anyway, Peyton and Lucas visit the graveyard. Peyton talks to her mom, Lucas talks to Keith, also they're babysitting Jamie. Jamie asks Lubisky how Keith died, and he tells the kid he was shot. And when he asks why, my boy just tells him to talk to Dan. Speaking of Danny boy, he's out here walking into the ocean yelling and fighting God, and it's so funny. I cannot understate how funny everything with Dan has been this episode. Like, holy shit. The dog evil heart surgery is genuinely one of my favorite pieces of television, period. It's the best. This part, very funny. Anyways, Lubisky has to deal with losing his job, Peyton has to deal with some recording business shenanigans, and Skills gets dumped by Deb Lamau. Dan is dying, and he's gonna spend a couple of hours with Jamie as a final goodbye. We cut to pretty much everyone at Trick just coping with their recent misfortunes, and it's pretty funny even if Lucas just lost $300,000. In their final exchange together, Jamie asks Dan about who killed Keith, and wouldn't you know it, Dan is honest. Jamie immediately abandons him as a result. We see Lucas and Julian mourn the loss of their movie and other such shit, but then the Coke Man director comes and reveals that since he shot a little bit of B-roll, that means Lucas does get his extra $300K after all, and Coke Man ascends into the heavens in a helicopter. My man! Jaylee Haim Scott just got fired, but she does give a certified coach speech to her students as she loses her job. My girl! To Scott Bros deal with Dan's imminent death in different ways, but it's mostly celebration. So long and good riddance, Danny boy. Jaylee Haim Scott gets hired as a full-time producer for Mia's Records, so she's doing fine. Everyone's doing great, except for Dan. Also, while pretty faint, I hear what sounds like the 18th addition to the Ryan Adams song counter. I don't know if it actually is, but I'm calling it number 18. Dan visits the boys as they play a little b-ball at the river court and apologizes for everything he's done, even if it's not enough. And we end again with Jamie playing The Sims. Kringe. Episode 125 out of 187. We get a dramatic worrying about Peyton opening montage, but it gets interrupted by Nathan waking Lucas up for a day with him and Jamie at the river court again. Peyton's sketching again, and it's only slightly ominous. Jaylee Haim feels guilty about not being a teacher, and her English class is doing terribly now that she's gone. We get more Peyton sketching her and Lucas's love story. Brooke comes to her for advice on her Julian situation that I'm ignoring, and we cut back to the Lucas subplot for the episode. Lucas is teaching Jamie about Uncle Keith by taking him to the old body shop so they can work on Luke's car. Jaylee Haim comes home and her entire English class is in her house in an act of protest, and she teaches these kids in an act of guerrilla teaching. We get some funny bonding between the brothers and the kid. As Jaylee teaches her kids, the principal comes in and it's about to hit the fan. We see Jaylee Hames handle it like a champ. The principal continues to be a worthless bitch. More petty bullshit occurs, but 95.1 WDNC. We see Peyton sketching more. Lucas comes home. Neither of them told Nathan or Brooke, respectively, about the potentially fatal disease Peyton has, or a health complication she has. She then puts the sketch into this container, and we see a bunch of other sketches, trinkets, and other such things. We know what this is for. It's a very sad bin that you hope a kid never has to find, a memorial to a dead parent. 126 out of 187. Oh hey, Victoria the rat bitch is back in town, and she's here to torment Brooke about some business shit, I don't know. There's a subplot about Jamie being eligible for some smart-ass gifted kids school, but let's not pretend that either of us care. Peyton's driving, and wouldn't you know it, it's car crash time! We cut back to the hospital, and Lucas tells Brooke about Peyton. She's currently doing fine, and the pregnancy complications. She and Peyton talk, and it's what you'd expect from them being best friends. Lucas is a fearful boy, so Peyton's basically on house arrest now. Lucas now has yet another project to work on in the background, though, because of the car. We get some Victoria and Brooke fighting, but all that matters is that Broke Davis is gonna get back to working in clothes. Skills is in charge of picking up Jamie today, and wouldn't you know it, he and Jamie's teacher hit it off really well. There's more things that occur, like Sam's friend. His name is Jack. I only just found out writing this. Anyway, Jack getting a set of foster parents, and he's gonna go live with them in Charlotte, thus abandoning her. Nathan going back to do pre-NBA shit, and WDNC. Skills gets to flirt with Jamie's teach. He's staying at his current school because gifted school kids are a bunch of jackass nerds. We see Lucas begin to work on fixing the comet.
Episode 126 out of 127.
Arnold, you have the wrong episode. That we just did 126.
Fuck you. Episode 127 out of 197.
Thank you, Arnold.
God.
We see Peyton losing her mind from being sentenced to bed rest, and she's wondering why Lucas is spending so much time in that damn garage. There's more stuff with Peyton losing her mind, more things with Victoria being an evil bench, and more Brooke working on music designs and shits, more Mia making music, etc., etc. We see Lucas work on the car, and wouldn't you know, he finds a ticket for a graduation gift we see in a flashback. He got Peyton tickets to see The Cure ages ago, in a scene we never got to see. Am I crazy for wanting more Cure songs in this show? I'm just saying that Disintegration is a banger album, and I want more of that to make this shit show more palatable. Oh boy, I think I'm having an aneurysm. As Lucas fixes the car, we get more and more flashbacks to that day, and wouldn't you know it, that Peyton thudded Lucas. Now, if you don't remember Thud, it's that thing when Lucas sent her Peyton's art to the magazine Thud way back in season 1, so she's just returning the favor 5 seasons later. Back at Trick, Mia and Jaylee Hames Scott are hard at work when supposedly actual musician Nick Lachey shows up to try and get the rights to one of Jaylee Hames' songs. More Lucas flashbacks. We get a shot of Jamie and chaperone Skills going to the school dance where Skills is going to try and get with the teacher. We get a quick check-in on Peyton losing her mind, an extended Lubisky flashback, and more. Oh wow, Brooke and Victoria are fighting again. Who would have seen that coming? Anyways, speaking of Disintegration, they actually do play a Cure song in this episode with Pictures of You. We get a montage of successful things happening for everyone, and we get a Peyton Lubisky moment set to The Cure. Apparently it's actually diegetic this time, which is cool, and it's very sweet.
Episode 128 out of 187.
We see Peyton filming a In Case I'm Not Here video for her kid, and it's a pretty depressing note to start off on. We cover all sorts of ground, from music to best friends to why this video is being recorded in the first place. We also find out that Peyton's baby shower is tonight, and all of those things for, plot. I mean, the due date is relatively soon. We've only got this episode and 2 after to resolve this. Anyhows, Lucas walks in on this sob fest, and it's a source of conflict for today. It's a point of conflict because she's doing it as a just in case, and he doesn't want to do any of this because he's determined for her to stay alive. Lucas is a little piss baby or whatever the hell, and he storms off to the garage to work on the secret car project. He took the just-in-case capsule with him, so he and Jamie, he's babysitting him today actually, will look through this later. Also, Peyton wants to get married sooner rather than later because, just in case. Lucas will need some convincing to make this happen, but surprise, surprise, he will. Nathan's got a big game tonight, and the scouts are there. Skills has a date tonight, Sam wants to get to know her birth mom and a subplot I've been ignoring, and all of that 95.1 WDNC stuff. Now, we get to see Lucas and Jamie talking about the events of Lucas and Peyton's relationship, as conveyed through the capsule. We get to see some baby shower shenanigans and bonding, etc., etc. Skills' date gets ruined by this kid named Chuck being a dick. Also, Chuck is a kid in Jamie's class who's been a recurring jackass bit. He's Jamie's equivalent of Tim. I've just been ignoring him. Speaking of James Lucas Scott, he and Lubisky talk about everything in that tin. It goes well because it gives Lucas some hope that everything is gonna be alright. Oh, yeah, Sam moves out to go live with her birth mom, so Brooke is alone again. Lucas comes home and they're gonna get married as soon as possible because they love each other with all their hearts, no matter how genetically defective one of them is. The genetically defective heart, like Lucas's thing. Man, you remember that subplot? Episode 129 out of 187. Alright, second to last episode of the season, and it's time for another wedding. The minister fell through, and Lucas has to ask Jaylee Hames to stand in and do the thing. Wahoo! This wedding, Skills has Jamie on a child leash because we know what happened last time Lucas tried to get married. We see Brooke and Peyton getting ready for the wedding, and Peyton tells Brooke that if anything happens to her, she wants her to be there to take care of Lubisky and da baby. They talk about fear and stuff, but it'll all work out. There's no way they'll let Peyton die. That would be the worst possible ending for this character, who is known for being the victim of a series of unending tragedies. Anyways, back to the happy, not depressing thoughts. We see wedding prep stuff. Everyone's here, and Brooke has a really fancy suit for Lubisky to wear, and also a suit for Nathan. And when I said everyone's here, I mean it, because Julian is here, but he brought the actress who would have played Brooke Davis in the movie as a date, so shit hits the fan. We get a shot of Mouth recreating the Blair Witch Project with the wedding video camera, and it's pretty funny. Also pretty funny is the fact that Jamie has breached containment and is running free. Anyhow, it's wedding ceremony time, and here she goes down the aisle. It's Lindsay. Nah, I'm just messing with you, it's Peyton. Minister Jaylee Hames Scott has to improvise a whole speech, and it's a really funny thing to watch her fumble her way through it. I like the very informal nature of this whole thing. Anyway, then Jaylee Hames brings out the predictions that she and Lucas wrote when we hear all sorts of references to previous events in the series that we've seen. It's really sweet and nice to see. We get to hear the vows and everything in full. It's a very heartwarming thing to watch, and feels like a good payoff for sticking through the bullshit that we've endured for the last 128 episodes of this. Of course, they kiss and everyone claps. No, really, everyone's very happy for them, as they should be. The reception is held at Trick, and we get some miscellaneous bullshit that sets up for the next season, mostly about Brooke and Julian and 95.1 WDNC, but we do care about how it's time for the first dance, as sung by Mia. We watch all the couples of Tree Hill dance together, and it's sweet and fun. Also funny is Nathan and Jaylee Hames Scott having what the show has been hyping up as slutty wedding sex. Nobody expected it would be them having the aforementioned slutty wedding sex. Somehow, other bullshit ensues to pad the runtime, but what does matter is that Lucas brings Peyton Scott home. He's about to show her that he's fixed the comet, but then she starts to bleed, and you know it's time to rush off to the hospital. She's barely conscious, and wouldn't you know it, it's time for the end of season tragedy. Alright, episode 130 out of 187. And it wouldn't be a season of One Tree Hill without another surgery scene. We start with Lucas carrying Peyton into the ER and the team rushing her off for surgery. Both of them are covered in blood, and everyone's really not having a good time. We get a time lapse of people watching over the surgery as it occurs, and it's not a fun sight. But the baby is born and is alive. We see Lucas comfort the baby in a very lonely and dark shot. We see Lucas waiting by Peyton's bedside damn near the whole time. We get a lot of Lucas waiting by Peyton's side, but then she wakes up. She's still very out of it, but she gets to meet the baby now. Her name is Sawyer. Also, guess who made it to town to bring the baby into the hospital room where the L. Scott family gets to be together for the first time? It's Karen. We get a mom cameo, and were he still alive, we'd get a Keith cameo. We get some shit between Brooke and Julian and them having some Funky Town shenanigans, but I don't give a shit. Peyton, Lucas, and Sawyer Scott are all home now, and they're having a great time being a family. We get a classic Lucas and Karen conversation, and it feels like the first season a little bit. It's a nice sentiment, really. Anyways, I'm skipping anything that isn't the L. Scott family, but I have to mention that Dan goes to visit a very special person, and it's Coach! We get a Coach cameo, baby! That's my boy! The actual interaction doesn't mean shit, but I had to mention my beloved hero Coach appearing one last time. We do get a certified Coach speech too, and an attempt at Dan's end-of-season tragedy, but 95-1 WDNC. Oh, yeah, Nathan just made it to the NBA. Everything's coming together well for everyone. Lucas showcases the repaired Comet to Peyton Scott. They have a great time. We see everyone having a montage of everything ending exactly where it should have. Nathan's in the NBA, Mouth is a successful sportscaster man, Lucas and Peyton have stood through it all, and now they can finally have it all. We end with them in the repaired Comet driving off into the sunset, and they'll never look back. In a shot that pans out further and further until we end on a shot of the river court, and this is where the entire series should have ended. We got the happy ending, everyone's made it to where they needed to be, and every major arc is done. And why should I carry on? I mean, spoilers, but Lucas and Peyton are never coming back to the show since there's nowhere else for the characters to go. Lucas does come back for a cameo in the final season, but Peyton doesn't, for important reasons we'll discuss when we get to the analysis, which will be a long time from now. With all of that said, this shit show carries on its merry little death march, and so shall I. Next time on A Leg of Glazed Ham is committing to the bit and is talking about One Tree Hill. Twin Quames is gonna get divorced, so it's time to celebrate that
Someone ordered divorce from the menu, boys!
Oh, we get the start of a potential Oh, wait. Oh, Jesus the Christ. Are you kidding me? It's her again? Really? Of everyone it could have been, you bring back Rachel? God damn it!